little quirky rule about APA there. But this is a second way to incorporate that phrase into my paper. Let's look now at a third option, and this is for the option a person decides they don't want to do the direct quote, instead they want to reword the quote and put it into. And so maybe for an example, they have this idea. They write in their paper, for a situational leader to be successful, he should find the right balance between promotion and informing. You'll notice what the author of the paper has done is taken the quote from the book as it appears from Hershey and Blanchard's words and tried to swap out the words in order to avoid plagiarism. And so where the original author used the word effective, now in this paper I've chosen the word successful. Where the original author said he must strike, I've put in here should find. Instead of saying the perfect balance, this author is saying the right balance. And then finally, instead of saying selling and telling, we swap that out to be promotion and informing. Almost like finding the synonym for every word in a thesaurus and simply swapping out the original author's words for new words. Some people look at that and say, well, since we have not used those exact words from the original authors in my paper, then I've not plagiarized. I've successfully avoided plagiarism by swapping out the words. But that's not exactly right. While that does avoid plagiarism of the author's words, it does not avoid plagiarism of the author's ideas. If that were listed in a paper, based on that quote at the top, we would consider that to be plagiarism. You'll notice the idea is indeed the same, and the author of the paper cannot take credit for the idea when it really should be giving credit back to the original authors. And so if we're going to use this particular line in our paper, we do indeed need the citation at the end in order to avoid plagiarism of the original author's ideas. You'll notice, by the way, that there's no quotation marks, since it's not a direct quote, word for word, from the original authors. And also, there's no page number in the citation. The page numbers are only used when we are putting a direct quote into our paper. This is not exactly the best way for us to write papers. As a matter of fact, we really expect our graduate students to write in a more sophisticated manner than simply swapping out words, like looking them up in the thesaurus. Instead, what we'd like to see is, we'd like to see students who read the original author's sentence, take what the meaning is and the ideas from the original authors, and then repackage them in a new sentence. And so while this example is indeed a third option, it's a way of doing that, it's not the most sophisticated and not the best way that we'd expect in our graduate students' papers.
Okay, at least through this.
Here's a fourth option where the author takes those ideas from the book and then writes a brand new sentence. It says, for a leader to exercise situational leadership properly, he must blend the opposite concepts of encouraging buy-in and also direct commanding. In this case, the idea still belongs to Hershey and Blanchard, and so that's why the citation is needed. But it's a brand new sentence. Again, it's been repackaged by the person who's writing the paper. A much more sophisticated way to get that idea in the paper. A lot better than simply swapping out the words. This would be